morning. We'll call this hearing to order. Dr. Makary, thanks for being here. We appreciate it very much. I know that it's a busy day for you, and so appreciate you being here. And of course, Ranking Member Shaheen, thank you. Look forward to working with you on this Appropriations Subcommittee. You and I have worked before on Appropriations Subcommittee, and so I'm pleased now I have that opportunity here with Ag. Agriculture is incredibly important to my state, and I know the ranking member's state. What our great farmers and ranchers do every single day affects every American every single day with the highest quality, lowest cost food supply in the world. And of all the developed countries, Americans spend less of their budget on food, and they have better choice and better quality than any other country in the world, and we can't take that for granted. And so you'll find that pretty strong advocates for our farmers and ranchers.
Great.
We understand that your job at FDA is to keep people safe, whether it's it's primarily the drugs they eat, but many food products, obviously, as well. I've appreciated the conversations that we've had, and I must say, as I've told you in our conversations, I think you've got an incredible record in healthcare. I certainly believe that Johns Hopkins is one of the finest hospitals, medical centers in the country. I have direct personal experience, so I've taken family members to Johns Hopkins, and I've been impressed not only with the quality of healthcare, but with the culture of the people there and the caring. And then not only your tenure there, but all that you've accomplished is remarkable. And so we appreciate you're willing to take on this public service, this incredibly, incredibly important job. In it, you're going to have to, of course, primarily to make sure that our food and drugs are safe, that the organization is working as absolutely well as it can, which is why I appreciate your background not only in medicine but in business. Obviously, we are all trying to find savings across government to address the debt and the deficit. I know you've been charged with that task as well. But paramount, your job is safety. I understand, of course, they'll be releasing the MAHA report today. You're looking at new ways to do things. That's important. We need to do those kind of things. At the same time, there are practical realities, which you and I have talked about, that our farmers and ranchers face every day producing that highest quality, lowest cost food supply that I just referenced that benefits every American every single day. So whether it's the fertilizers, the pesticides, the equipment, all the things that go into them producing that food supply, they have to face the practical realities of operating in a market that every day they don't control. They don't control the weather. They don't control the prices. They don't control trade agreements, and on it goes. And when you look across our economy, so many industries are a few big companies that run the whole thing. I personally am not a fan of that. But when you look at agriculture, 16 million people directly or indirectly involved in agriculture, small family farms and businesses across this country that have become quite sophisticated with precision ag and everything else, and we do it better than anybody in the world and have higher standards. But that is what we have, and I firmly believe that that's what Americans want to make sure we have for long into the future. So I spent a little time on that in this opening statement because we have to be aware, you have to be aware of how that works. And as we make changes, again, making sure we do all we can for a healthy America, that we understand those realities and the challenges that those people have, and that we can't just take it for granted. And that we have to understand and make sure that all of this works for everybody on both sides of the equation. So with that, I'll turn to our ranking member. And I'm going to have to ask to excuse myself to vote. I may miss some of your opening statement, but I'll see if I can't get anything that I miss via the written remarks and then be back. Ranking member.
Well, thanks very much, Chair Hoeven. And let me just welcome, as you did, Commissioner Makary. Very nice to have you here this morning. And I would echo the Chair's commitment to agriculture and how important it is our farmers are to our food supply and to the economy of this country. It's a very different enterprise in New Hampshire with our farms because they are small family farms, but very important to the state nevertheless. But of course, the this morning we're here to talk about the role of the Food and Drug Administration. Federal investment and stability in biomedical innovation are vital not just for our competitiveness and national security, but also for local economies in New Hampshire and across the country. Right now, we have the earliest access to new cures and treatments, and we attract the best talent from across the globe because of the good-paying jobs that are in emerging research. Those jobs fuel our small towns and cities, including in New Hampshire, where we have a growing industry in biomedical companies. It's very exciting to see the growth that's occurring in our state. As we speak, they're developing cutting-edge cell and gene therapies to cure terrible diseases like diabetes and cancer. And I think when we met, we talked about some of the work that's being done in New Hampshire, particularly at ARMI, the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute. But of course, to keep pioneering breakthroughs in curative treatments, they need stability and predictability, something this administration, sadly, has failed to provide so far. It's more than just a lack of stability. I fear the very mission of the FDA is at risk because of the actions of this administration. More than 4,000 people have been pushed out of FDA since January, the majority of those targeted by probationary terminations and reductions in force that don't seem to have any real analysis of who's important to keep and who is not critical to the mission. To date, this committee has not received key information on where specifically these workforce cuts are happening across centers and offices at the FDA, and that's information that we need as we're going to write this budget. What I want to emphasize is that it didn't really have to be that way. I think there is bipartisan support to see how we make our government agencies and departments more effective and efficient. But to do that, we need to have a process that people understand or are engaged in. And I fear that the process that's been done so far is going to prove to be very wasteful to patients and families in New Hampshire and across the country. Scientists at the FDA have been fired along with support staff who make their work possible, from those who assist with product reviewers to those who quite literally keep the lights on. Patients across this country are depending on the FDA, as you know, to review medical products to ensure that new and novel treatments are approved, and yet reports now suggest that medical product reviews have slowed, that essential meetings have been postponed or canceled, and that deadlines for user fee agreements have been missed. And as Congress has provided the FDA with new authorities and directives, from the Tobacco Control Act to the Food Safety Modernization Act to the Modernizing of Cosmetics Regulation Act, the FDA has hired talented people who have gotten the work done to keep the American people safe. Going backwards, I think, is unacceptable. I'm seriously concerned that the workforce cuts across the agency will harm the progress that this committee has supported on a bipartisan basis to ensure a strong FDA that supports innovative treatments and gives families peace of mind that the drugs we take, the food we eat, and the cosmetics we use are safe. Now, moving on to the fiscal year 2026 budget, which is the topic of this hearing, I wish we'd received and had a chance to review the full President's budget request prior to this hearing, though I would point out that that's not unique to FDA. We haven't gotten the details of the budget in any other appropriations hearings that I've been part of. The FDA was not mentioned in the preliminary budget materials we received 3 weeks ago, so we're sitting here today talking about a budget that this committee has not received. I'm disappointed to see the vast and drastic proposed cuts to the Department of Health and Human Services, and my priority is that the FDA has the resources that you need to carry out the core missions of the agency. But without a budget, it's hard for us to assume that the President's proposal will meet those goals. Now, in closing, the FDA at its core has an incredibly hopeful mission. The agency has the power to bring hope and comfort to millions of people by approving groundbreaking cures and treatments developed here in America by the best scientific minds in the world. So I think we on this committee stand ready to be partners in this effort, and I with that, Commissioner Makary, I appreciate your being here today again, and I look forward to hearing your statement and to the discussion that we will have with members of the committee about your budget proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Hoven, and thank you, Ranking Member Shaheen, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for having me here to testify on the FDA budget for 2026. The Trump administration is proposing a $6.8 billion budget for the FDA, including $3.2 billion in budget authority and $3.6 billion in user fees for fiscal year 2026. This allows us to take the necessary steps to support the Make America Healthy Again agenda, as we have already been busy implementing. Now, I've been at the FDA for about 7 weeks, and I'm proud of the early progress we've made, working to remove all non-petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply, eliminating unnecessary animal testing requirements for drugs. We approved a new blood test for Alzheimer's, which could help enable more early treatment. For the pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities overseas that the FDA inspects, there has been a routine of using scheduled inspections, which in my opinion are no inspections at all. They're a joke. And we are moving towards surprise inspections. We don't allow FDA inspectors anymore to accept limo rides from the pharmaceutical manufacturing companies that they are there to inspect. I'm amazed at some of the stuff that I'm learning when I look under the hood. We've begun taking action against new challenges, such as gas station heroin and childhood vaping with illegal Chinese vaping products. Our borders have been far too porous. Working with the Trump administration's re-energized Customs and Border Protection, we're not wasting any time. Today, we are announcing the seizure of nearly 2 million illegal vaping products from China. Last week, we announced plans to withdraw from the market chewable, ingestible fluoride tablets currently prescribed to 6-month-old babies. And this week, we published in the New England Journal of Medicine our framework for COVID vaccine booster regulation so that developers and companies can see what we're thinking and have predictability. And we are planning to bring back gold standard science and common sense. We also have to modernize. On day one of me being on the job, I actively began an effort to organize, to use AI for our scientific reviewers to make their jobs easier. Well, 2 weeks ago, we just announced our first AI-assisted review with the latest generation AI technology. One reviewer said that what normally took him 2 to 3 days, the AI did in 6 minutes. I've set an aggressive goal of June 30th to have AI-assisted scientific reviews help our reviewers agency-wide. And we're going to be ahead of schedule and under budget on meeting that aggressive goal. The goal is to reduce the paperwork burden of reviewers, which is tremendous, so that we can deliver more cures and meaningful treatments to the American people faster. That's been the first 7 weeks of my job at the FDA. Here are other important goals I have for the FDA, and we're already hard at work on them. Healthier food for children, a universal flu shot, meaningful treatments for ALS, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative disorders, treatments for rare diseases, cancer therapies that are so powerful a tumor is eliminated without the need for surgery or chemo. That's not a theoretical, that's something we've already seen. And one of my highest priorities is to ensure that we are not wasting any time in evaluating novel treatments for PTSD. Many of our brave veterans served in unnecessary wars, and we owe it to them. I've not yet hit the 2-month mark, so I'm doing a lot of listening. I appreciate all of your input. But one question we must ask is, why does it take over 10 years for a new drug to come to market? My team and I are working very actively to examine the approval process in all of its details so we can try to figure out how to deliver more cures and meaningful treatments and devices faster and in a more user-friendly way for developers without cutting any corners on the scientific review and independence. We're also committed to President Trump's promise to lower drug prices. At the FDA, we can help by bringing more low-cost generics and biosimilars to market, among many other strategies we're exploring. In conclusion, the FDA is filled with an enormously talented and committed group of employees representing, in my opinion, one of the greatest brands in the world. It's my duty to make sure that everybody central to the core mission has all the resources they need to do their job well. So I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makary. We're honored to have the chair of the Appropriations Committee, Senator Collins, with us. And Senator Hoeven went to vote, so he turned the gavel over to me. So I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, temporary chair. But it's been an honor to work with you on so many issues that we care about in this space, including type 1 diabetes in particular. Doctor, I appreciated hearing your comments this morning. Americans have relied on the FDA for more than a century to ensure that their medicines are both safe and effective. Recognizing that America biotech leads the world in innovation, we in Congress have taken a number of actions to ensure that FDA's rigorous regulatory review keeps pace with the speed of science and solves problems in areas where we don't have cures or effective treatments or a means of prevention. Recent staffing changes at the FDA appear to have affected the balance between innovation and regulatory review from what I'm hearing. I'm particularly concerned about the downstream impact of delays on patients suffering from debilitating rare diseases like ataxia and Barth syndrome, as well as more common terrible diseases like ALS, which you mentioned, Alzheimer's, and other neurodegenerative diseases. As I mentioned, Senator Sheehan and I'm sorry, I'm out of it today, apparently. Dr. We have worked together on type 1 diabetes for many years. We're encouraged by what's going on in stem therapy and immunotherapy in that area. And today, you yourself talked about the need for more efficient regulatory pathways and innovative treatments for rare, life-threatening diseases, particularly when there are no major safety issues and existing treatments are either don't exist or they're limited. So what I'm hearing is there's a real slowdown at FDA. And that's not what you were committing to today, but that's what I'm hearing the reality is. There are a number of rare disease, new drug applications that have been pending at FDA for some time. What specifically is FDA doing under your leadership to accelerate getting new treatments for rare diseases to patients safely and as soon as possible, particularly since we have developed these accelerated pathways, particularly for those patients for which there are no treatment options now?
Good to see you, Senator Collins. I share in your interest in this topic because I have cared for people with rare diseases and rare cancers, and it is the worst feeling in the world to have to break bad news. And when people say, is there anything out there to not have anything to respond with is a very difficult position. So we need to customize the regulatory process to the condition being treated. And so If it is a rare condition, we have to drop our randomized control trial requirements in some instances. I will say, however, that the trains are running on time at the FDA. There have been no staffing changes that have changed any approval schedules. We are on track to meet all of our PDUFA targets. There are, on occasion, every year, essentially every year, a couple drugs that are very complex where the career scientists ask for more time, either to convene an advisory committee to weigh in or to design a very unique, specific randomized trial. So in reference to one of the products that you had mentioned, I had gotten briefed and was assured that there was no delays related to staffing. These were additional time because of the complexity of the early data, and the staff truly, the career scientists truly believed they needed a few more weeks. And I thought, we're on track to meet our PDUFA targets. They believe we're completely on track to meet our PDUFA targets if they took a few more weeks, and I thought that was reasonable. The trains are running on time. The food inspectors are doing their job. We have 12 food labs. There's no backlog at the food labs. The cuts that you referenced and Senator Shaheen referenced were to things like this. 2,600, this is at the FDA, 2,600 HR staff, contract staff, and budget staff. Now, I think that's too much, and they were part of the reduction in force. In total, about 1,800, almost 1,900 people were involved in the reduction in force, and I think a lot of that is consolidation. Just to be clear, there were no reductions in scientific reviewers as a part of the reduction in force. And we're actually hiring scientists because there's normally turnover with our scientific staff, and I hope the AI and the other tools will help make their jobs more efficient.